Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Popple, and today we have an exciting guest, Christian Dane, all the way from Puerto Rico, who's a real estate investor, boutique hotel owner, and he is sitting in his deal down there in Puerto Rico right now. So, how you doing today, Christian?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. How we doing?
Man, doing great. Hey, I'm checking that okay, the live thing is now up, so I'm doing that share now. Hang on one second. That way we can have as many guests on with us as possible now that we're on the live. Were you able to share that on yours?
That is what I am doing right now. Going live and going over my Puerto Rico hotel deal. Join me now. All right, cool. I just shared. How we
Perfect.
doing?
Man, dude, doing great. So, man, welcome to the show. Man, we got connected through my previous guest and really good friend, Bryce Thigpen. Who's a wholesaler. I know he's been down with you down there at that hotel in Puerto Rico. And when he told me about it, I was like, dude, this is like the dream, and the guy's already living it. Like I need him to tell me directly how I get the dream for myself. And then talk to you on the phone and he confirmed. I'm gonna go ahead and let you say that haystack comment. What you told me about finding a deal up here is like a needle in a haystack, and how is it down in Puerto Rico?
Yeah. So the analogy I gave Bryce was, back when I lived in the States, finding a deal was like trying to find a needle in a haystack, and um, every wholesaler and their mother is calling pre foreclosures, auctions, whatever it might be. And it's really hard to find a deal, right? And down here in Puerto Rico, it's the complete opposite. It's you look around and it's like all opportunity. It's like a bunch of haystacks and needles. Um,
Dude, I love that. I can't wait to come down there and check that out. Just because I mean, it just sounds amazing. So let's go back to 2016. What made you get into real estate in the first place?
so in college, me and my buddies, like, would follow Grant Cardone. Even before, somehow we found him even before like Instagram came out, and we read his books, and I always knew I wanted to be in real estate. I just didn't know how, and I was like most people, get a license, go that route. I
Mhm.
ended up hating it, quit 3 different times, and said I was never coming back. um,
What let's talk a little bit about like some of those things that made you quit. Like what were let's talk about strikeout number one. Like what happened that made you leave the game the first time?
um, so let me think. The first time.
Or one of the more memorable ones. I know out of the three. So what were like one or two of those things that just were like, man, I'm done with this.
So the very first brokerage I joined was EXP Realty, and
Okay.
they had the whole virtual, like, it was very weird. The people were weird. Um, not I didn't come on here to talk smack about EXP or any of their agents, but it was just a weird experience, and I didn't get a good any really good training or any. I just didn't get a good feel for it, so I was kind of like, all right, this isn't what I want to do. And I didn't really take real estate seriously. And I didn't, since it was online, it was a lot easier to just not really take it seriously.
Hmm.
Um, and then I wouldn't even say it was me quitting. I just kind of put my license on hold and then didn't really do anything. And then the second time around, I joined Keller Williams, and um, I that was in the Alexandria office, and I really just didn't like the people that were working there. Their training was good, but they were super adamant about doing it their way. And I just wasn't about that. And I didn't like to do things, their way. And they didn't like that. So it wasn't a good fit. And then the third time, I was with a company called, I was at One Street and they fired me. Um, I've been fired from almost every agency I've been with for one reason or another.
Man, so, kicked out, fired, and then what pulled you back in?
It's funny. I told this story today too. I'm a part of this Bible study, and I met this guy, and he was asking me about my story, but it was really the same as like the Wolf of Wall Street story. Um, it was after the third time I had quit real estate, wasn't interested in it. Uh, I was working working for my dad, making literally 35 grand a year, installing security cameras on army bases in Maryland, Adelphi, and I forget the other one. But regardless, it was horrible work. And There was one day I was with my roommate at the time, and we were having coffee. In I was living in DC at the time, off at T and 14th. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. And there was a Lamborghini parked out front of this outdoor coffee shop that we we had, we were there all the time. It was a very popular place. Um, and he was telling me like all the specs of this car, and I'm not a car guy. I don't know about cars. I know about real estate, and he was like telling me all the specs and like how it was his favorite car, and I was like, yeah, it's a nice car. It's a $200,000 car, Lamborghini Urus, um, and as soon as we stopped talking, I saw the owner who looked pretty young. Um, he opens the door, and then before I could even tell my friend, "Hey, there's the owner," like my friend had already like ran up to him and grabbed the door before the owner could close it. And he was like, "Dude, this is my favorite car. I have to know what you do." And I never would have done that. I'm not an introvert, but I'm not. My roommate at the time was like,
Very
imagine
extrovert.
imagine the most extrovert person and multiply it times 10. Like he's the most extroverted guy I know.
Right.
And Like I said, I wouldn't have gone up to him, but he did, and I wasn't just gonna sit there. So I went up and started talking to him too, and he's like, "Yeah, I own the brokerage above the coffee shop, um, and I develop condos. I do condo conversions and developments throughout the city." And he was like, "I really like how you guys just like came up and started talking to me. Um, how about we, you know, exchange numbers?" And uh, one thing led to another, and we started hanging out with him, and it was funny. He was at the time 41 ish, and he he was pretty timid around girls, but he liked how we, would just go up to anyone and talk to him. So our value to him was us, going up to girls and stuff, and his value to us was the penthouse, the Lambos, he would he would just he would be like, hey, bring a few girls, and I'll have a party at my penthouse, and we'll go out to dinner, and he just paid for everything, got table, whatever. And we got to talking one time because we were at his because we would have get-togethers at his office, that because he had it set up really nice to where there was like he was on the second story above the really popular coffee shop,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and he had this walkout balcony with these floor to ceiling windows,
Wow.
and um, with a fire pit. And I remember it was a few girls, my roommate and I and him out there, and we were talking, and I was just like complaining about my job, and I was like, yeah, dude, my freaking back is like killing me from being on a freaking ladder all day, installing these security cameras. And his name was Mark, the guy with the Lambo. Well, he actually had two Lambos. He had a Lamborghini Urus and a Lamborghini Aventador, both matte black. Uh,
Mark's the man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we started talking, and he's like, I mean, you hate your job, why don't you just quit? And I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, what do you like? No, I can't just
I need
quit.
money. Yeah.
I have a cleaning company that at first they were great, and then they hired this new guy, and then this new guy hasn't been great. And this is the second time that gotten a complaint about it not being clean, so I had to move them in a different unit, and told them they had to be out today, but they didn't respond all day. So, I mean, I don't have anyone coming today for that unit, but I have them coming tomorrow. So it's just,
Yeah, man. The small headaches of dealing with the short term rentals. You
yeah,
know, but
managing. It's like because I fired both management companies. I fired because they just, they weren't.
we're handling it enough.
No, they just weren't doing what I needed them to do, and it's like it's gotten to the point where I mean, I've done everything. I made this concrete block into a beautiful hotel, and I've done everything aside from cleaning, and now I'm to the point where I'm like, am I really gonna have to take on that job too? Like, it's like, do I have to do everything?
Right.
um,
Oh man. Well, let's get back to when your mentor told you just to go ahead and quit.
oh
So
yeah, thanks for reeling me back in. So yeah, we're imagine you're just hanging out, having drinks, a few girls, my roommate at the time, and Mark and I, and he's like, "Why don't you just quit?" And I look at him, and I'm like, "What do you mean just quit?" And he's like, "You have your real estate license, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I haven't even done a deal or really know much about real estate, or you know." And he's like, "Just come to my brokerage, and I'll teach you." And I was like, "Okay,
yeah.
let's give it a shot." And I was like, all right, this is the last time.
Hmm.
Like uh, heroin user or something, like last hit.
Right.
And I feel
But
like that's what real estate is for me. It's like it was like this thing that I always like wanted to be a part of, wanted to do, and I was like, all right, this is the last time. If it doesn't work out, I'm not gonna do it. And
yeah. Well, I do think a lot of people I personally know of a lot of people who have, taken a shot at being a real estate agent at some point in their life and figured out that that wasn't the career path, for them. But
yeah,
like they still liked elements of, of real estate and being the investor. But so tell us about like that first little bit when you officially working for Mark, and like how y'all's relationship work now that you're professionally with him.
Yeah, so it was very different, like, the way we communicated in the office, and then when we like hung out with him, on the weekends, and completely different. And um, you know, he would hold these classes that were about the most advanced. It was crazy because like my intro to real estate was like the most advanced, high level tactics that you could possibly imagine, that he was teaching us. So it was like learning a completely different language, and he's just throwing like high level stuff at you. And he would hold these classes. It wasn't like to teach you how to be a good agent, or it was literally to, like, his goal was to teach us how to find these niches within DC, and all of the dynamics within what he was doing, why he was doing it, in order for us to essentially bird dog for him and find these properties. Because he was doing, I mean, last I talked to him, he had $40 million worth of real estate, and this guy's a guy that came from Croatia and had nothing. Like, his story was, his family came over here, and he was a Croatian immigrant, and his family essentially got scammed by every trick in the book. Like, you get those random calls for like, call for your tax saving benefits, and it's like, it's a scam, but it's like, you're like, who actually falls for this? Like, it was his family that was falling for it. So he said pretty much every scam you can think of in the book, they got like hammered with. So he was very poor, got more poor, and you know he really lit a fire under me, by introducing me within these classes to all these extremely high tier elements of real estate that I had no idea existed, because at the time I just thought it was show up at an open house and put a smile on your face and have them sign in on the sheet, and if they're not working with an agent, then call them until their phone and call them until they block you. It was like,
Right.
that's up until that point in those classes, that's what I thought. you
So
know
so what Mark have you do?
So he taught us, like, and I'm not gonna lie, this guy was sleazy. He's not, the way he treated people, the way he did work, the way he did everything. I wasn't a fan of him personally. I could get along with him, I could
Hmm.
party with him, I could, but I wouldn't trust him farther than I could throw him.
Okay.
Even though I could probably throw him pretty far.
Mhm.
But he was just one of those guys. But at the same time, even at that time, I was able to, in my mind, separate, and really be like, okay, I can separate this, and really, I knew it was a point in my life where I was like, all right, this is really a guy I can learn a lot from. I mean, he was. And again, I don't like the guy, but he was essentially, and is essentially like the Elon Musk of real estate. Um, and I would even look at the things he taught us, and did very similarly. I mean, you look at Pace Morby or Jerry Norton, like he makes them look like, like they just found real estate yesterday. Like that's how knowledgeable he was at
Mm.
DC real estate. Um,
What
so he,
was like one of the tricks or things that you saw differently because of him that he showed you to look at it differently?
um, I won't say any specifics because he would teach us things like, all right, here's the line, this is illegal, this is legal, and he would have us go to here,
Okay,
you know, and sometimes like
you got to stay on that balance beam.
and it was super interesting to me, just that, like, how he would just push the. I mean, he ended up getting sued by the attorney general, but
What was he sued for?
so
Just
in
so
D,
we get some clarity on what he was pushing the limit on.
so in DC, and this wasn't even like this is like, I mean, he's and again, I didn't come on here to
Yeah,
slander him.
yeah, no, it was interesting. So yeah, we'll just I'm just curious, then we'll move on.
Yeah, so I mean, the things he taught us, there was a lot deeper stuff, but this was pretty base level. What the attorney general went after him for. So in DC, when you have these multi-family units, the people living in them, the tenants, when the owner goes to sell, the tenants have TOPA rights, which is Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act. Now, this act was amended in 2012, I believe it was, because it used to be single family, but it halted so many sales because it's such a ridiculous law. I won't go too much into it, but the short of it is tenants get the first right to buy the property. More times than not, they can. But they have to sign off saying, I don't have any intentions to buy this property. And those rights are assignable. So these tenants can sell their TOPA rights.
Okay,
So then in DC, there's a whole business of
I'm seeing where this is going. I'm already seeing it.
assigning TOPA rights, right? So
Yeah,
it's a
he was
whole.
he was buying up everyone's Topa rights then, huh?
Yeah, but at the same time, there would be multifamilies where he would try to get their TOPA rights and he couldn't, and they would be and TOPA, like some people, like he's paid like tenants 20 grand for their TOPA rights before, like it's when it made sense for that property or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, and why would a tenant not sell that?
Yeah,
Because
and it ranges like the average. I mean, sometimes they don't know that they're worth anything, and they'll just sign off on them. But the average TOPA rights sign off at that time. I'm not in the DC wholesale condo conversion world anymore, but at the time, the average was 2,500 to 5 grand to sign over your TOPA rights, and there would be businesses that would be set up to call these multifamily tenants as soon as a multifamily hit the market to explain to them these TOPA rights and say, hey, you're entitled to money. Let me take care of it for you. You don't have to do anything. You essentially get 2,500 bucks for free, and then they'll negotiate and get the tenants to sign it over for 5 grand, and they'll pocket the 2,500. So there's literally businesses and it's a screwed up concept. And you can imagine prior to, I believe it, like I said, prior to 2012, when it was single family, because now it's only multifamily, 3 units and above, and prior to that it was single family. So you can imagine someone just wants to sell their house and they rented it to a person, and now it's like, I have to have these topo rights and it's getting held up in title because, this person that I decided to rent it to for 3 months doesn't want to sign because I didn't fix a leak and, whatever. It's like, it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
got pretty
you know, I
ridiculous.
can see where they can kind of just be like difficult, saying they just refuse to sign, and then
Yeah. So there was a property. So going back to why you got sued, there was a property that, he couldn't get them to sign the rights to sell it. So he just let it go to shit. And he was starting to get pretty wealthy, and people would see him in his Lambo, and like, you know, the tenants saw him, flexing and whatever. And it's like, it got to the attorney general, and then, um, he just wasn't maintaining the property at all. It was
right.
just trash everywhere or whatever. I didn't actually go to the property, and I can't speak to what it looked like or how bad it actually was. But if you're getting the attorney general suing you for, uh,
They wouldn't bring a case if there wasn't some evidence supporting it.
exactly, so you can imagine how bad it was. And the Lambos didn't help.
Right.
It's not like it was a struggling landlord that couldn't make like, it was like, really, dude, like, you're gonna let this go to, and the attorney general, I believe, knew that it was essentially uh, a tactic of Mark's to get these tenants out. It was intentional. And that's, I think, was another reason, that he did what he did. But yeah, that out of all the things, that was surprising that was the one that, I mean, that's base level that I didn't even think that would. But all in all, learned a ton, from the guy. And, other than treating his tenants like shit and me not liking him personally, I can separate that from all that he taught me about wholesaling, about title companies, about, different ways to structure a deal. Um, I mean, creatively, uh, you know, like, for example, I'll share this and how I got the money, for the hotel, and used one of the tricks that he taught me in one of his classes. Uh, so what I did was, I bought a property seller finance in 2019.
Mhm.
It was a multifamily. It was a 4 unit in Frederick. Um, I still own it. But what I did and what I learned in his class was this strategy that I used. And I told the owner in 2000. So I moved to Puerto Rico in 2020, June of 2022.
Okay.
So February, fast forward, February 2023, I told the owner of my multifamily in Frederick that I was going to take a HELOC, on the property to get the money to put a down payment on the hotel, because I seller financed the hotel as well as the renovations. And he was like, man, like, the whole reason I did seller finance in 2019 when you bought the property was because I was trying to avoid capital gains, and now I'm going to have to pay capital gains. And I was like, all right, well, how about this? How about how about we do the refi, clear you out, and then I owed him 165 at the time, paying 3.25%. Um, and I was like, how about we clear you out on the refi, keep the 165 in escrow for a few days or a week, um, and then we just write up new terms or the same terms. I take the 165 and it's business as usual. And I just keep paying you what I've been paying you, and I can use the 165 for the hotel. So when you do a refi or a cash out refi or a HELOC, the lender will typically let you pull out 70 to 80% of
Mhm.
what the property's worth. Um, and in this case, because what I owed him was 165, I was able to take 100%.
Okay.
So it was 100% cash out refi. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, so that was one of the many kind of hacks that he had taught me. Um,
Cool. And then what was the year that you broke off from Mark and started wholesaling all on your own?
um, I'd say 2020, end of 2020.
Okay, cool. And then once you went full steam into wholesaling, I know that's when you started killing it. What were you doing that worked so well?
Uh, just really grinding, honestly. I just knew the right people. I'm good friends with Robert, owner of Investor Lift. I was like number 7 that signed up for Investor Lift when it came out. So I've known Robert for a while.
That Drummond, I think, is
Oh, sorry.
yeah, yeah, you're good. Yeah, so you linked up with, you said, with one of the people who started Investor Lift.
Yeah, the owner of Investor Lift, Robert Wensley.
Oh man, that's kind of like a revolutionary connection. There's only one Investor Lift, and that's nationwide. So that's a pretty solid connection.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. I actually ended up
You said,
subletting his apartment down in Puerto Rico.
oh, nice. That his name was Robert. You said.
Yeah, Robert Wensley, owner of Investor Lift.
No,
Um,
that's really cool. And then it was pretty quick then from the time you got started. You said end of 2020. So probably within, you said, another 18 months you were down in Puerto Rico then.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I really just put everything I had into. I mean, my dad. I didn't even quit my dad's company. He actually fired me. Um, so that really stung at the time, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
Uh,
So what were some of the biggest wins you had during the wholesaling before Puerto Rico?
um, I closed on this property in Ellijay, Georgia. It's like north of Atlanta. And that was from a texting campaign. And the guy wanted 400, and somehow I was able to negotiate him down to 300. Um, I remember the day I was just really pissed off that day, and he kept trying to get me to come out. He was like 325. I was like, dude, I can't do a dollar over 300. And I'd had a lot of trouble moving that deal, and for some reason I just kept at, and it was really obscure because there's no comps. It was like this 6,500 square foot like compound that had been like 70% finished. It was on like 15 acres around that, and it was in Elijah. It's very rural, so it's not only rural, but it's a very obscure property with no comps. So it was very strange.
Right.
So I actually couldn't even sell it on Investor Lift, and I remember almost giving up on it. And then my VA, who still works for me in the Philippines, was posting it on Facebook, and in one of the groups, a wholesaler from North Carolina linked up with, saw it, sent it to uh, these agents. It's a girl and a guy, a couple in Georgia that knew an investor that would want it. So got it for 300 and actually ended up selling it for 405, cutting off the agent's 15K and the wholesaler 5K, and I made, what would that be, around 70, a little over 70.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. No, that's definitely a big one. So, and I'm assuming you had, you did a lot of wholesaling in that year. About how many deals you think you closed in that one full year of wholesaling?
Um,
Or 2021.
21, I was doing probably, I actually wasn't doing that many. 2022 was the big year, I'd say. But 2021, maybe 5 to 10 a month was pretty average.
Okay. Well, what was your average average wholesale fee on those 5 to 10? Just average.
Probably 20, 25.
Wow. Okay. So I mean, making a steady six figures a month. Then, I mean, that's huge. What is it? What is it? How were you able to like look and make all these offers like in different parts of the country without knowing those areas well? What kind of stuff did you look to, like? I mean, was like that one in Georgia, for example. Like yeah, you said that one didn't have any good comps, but like, are you just searching the internet for other comps, or how are you knowing what to offer on some of these properties in states you've never been in?
Um, so it's funny, have you ever, I don't know how much you're on Instagram. I'm not anymore, but I was on far more than I should have
Uh
been. But
huh.
it's one meme of like, there's the guy on the left, and he's like very dumb, and then the in the middle, it's like the chart. It's like a graph of the guy on the left is like dumb. The guy in the middle is like really angry, and the guy on the left or on the right has this hood, and he's supposed to be like the really wise, smart guy, and it's like it's a graph of a bell curve. So the guy on the left and the guy on the right are complete opposites in intellect and IQ, but they have the same idea. And then at the top of the bell, it's the guy that's really angry and frustrated, and it depicts that there's this thing about simplicity that when you start out you have, and then you start to learn more and you lose, and then you come back to it as you progress and advance.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like kind of going back to the basics, and like, the deeper you get into something, you kind of lose the basics, and then you just keep going and you kind of go back to the basics. So now really I just look on Zillow, dude. I don't, before I was doing like batch leads, really just digging into these properties and trying to find like just overworking, and overcomplicating it. And now like I'm like, just offer half of this estimate. you know,
Okay.
I mean, it's not. I mean, there's a lot of other things I do depending on the condition, and you know,
But you
like
just that you kind of just start mass shooting out those kind of offers, and then enough of them hit. And I mean, is that basically what you do? Is just
yeah,
doing enough of
and
those?
it depends on like the type of lead. If it's a Google Ads lead, then I will take it a lot more seriously because the Google Ads that because in 2021 I was doing just mass text campaigns.
Okay.
I won't say how many texts I was doing a day, but because I had a few people try to sue me, but I was doing a lot. And I was doing a lot, and for those leads, those are very different leads than Google Ads leads. I'll give the analogy: texting leads is like a machine gun, and Google Ads is like a sniper. You know, well, it should be if you have your Google Ads set up correctly, and it's you see these guys, and I'm not gonna name them, but they were like, I get ads for 30, $50 a conversion. It's like, all right, dude, well, your keywords probably suck. Like, they're probably not that distressed. Like, and I've gone through like 5 different ads agencies and eventually found this woman that worked for Google for 15 years, teaching companies like Brandon Bateman's. I don't think she taught his, but companies like his how to run their ads. Um, and she was in charge of unsuspending people's accounts,
Okay.
running ads. So I worked with her, and that's when it would get up to like two to three, even $400 a conversion.
Hmm.
But these people were distressed, and those were where that was like end of 21, start of 2022, into 23 that I was doing like 30 to 40 deals a month.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that's when I was like, that was the top of it right before the hotel, and then I had to stop because I'm not gonna lie, the hotel was I bit off a lot more than I could chew, and I ended up having to put every dime I had, including every second of the day that I had extra, into this hotel, and I had to essentially abandon my wholesaling business or put it on pause.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Um,
Let's talk about that. So, did you come to Puerto Rico before the hotel, or did the hotel
yeah,
bring you to Puerto Rico?
yeah, yeah. I had no intention of building a hotel in Puerto Rico when I
Okay.
moved.
So
I
you
moved strictly just to save on taxes
perfect. Okay. So that's where I was going to go at. So
from wholesaling.
yeah. So you decided to save on taxes, which I mean, definitely a bold moving down to Puerto Rico. What drew you there, and what were some of the incentives that caught your attention?
Yeah, so when I was wholesaling, I was, in DC, and I was like behind my computer. This was right after COVID. And I was like, why am I still here? Like, I hate it here, and I am always behind my computer, and I can be anywhere.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, I want to be somewhere warm. And I had already decided I want to move, because I had been in that area my whole life.
Hmm.
I grew up in the Appalachia, just outside of DC, and I was like, why am I here? So I was like, I want to be somewhere warm. Looked at California. I was like, screw that. Uh, Looked at Florida because I wanted to be by the beach too. And
Hmm.
looked at Florida. I was like, it's just too flat. And then I randomly came across this guy, um, who is in the same industry, and on Instagram, and started following his stories. And he lived in Puerto Rico, and I was like, saw his stories on Instagram, and I was like, this guy's life is sick.
Yeah. Is he a real estate guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who is that?
Um, I won't say his name. It's a um, we had a falling out, and
Oh, okay. No
yeah,
worries. We'll move on then. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay,
Um,
cool. But okay, so but he was living he was living the life that looked pretty good, and because that was kind of like one like okay, let me go check out Puerto Rico.
yeah, exactly. And then July, or no, I'll say June of 2022, booked a ticket down here, fourth day, signed a lease, came back July 2023, a month later. Um, and I've only been back to the States like three times.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then so what are some of the things that you've loved about being in Puerto Rico?
The weather, the women, just it feels like you're in GTA, Grand Theft Auto.
Okay,
It feels like you're in a video game, like Far Cry 3, or like it doesn't, and still to this day it really doesn't feel like real life. Like it's a very, and I hate to sound like cliche Andrew Tate Matrix, but like, back in the States, it started to really feel that way, like a very just matrixy type way. And down here, I mean, yeah, it's the US, but it's a completely different country when you're looking at it from that angle.
cool. Well, usually right about here is where I would usually take a pause. I know we're on live right now, where we would go to part two. So before we do that, though, what is some advice you'd give to someone who's thinking about moving for a financial advantage? Would you tell them to make the move?
Absolutely. I mean, definitely make sure like whatever business you're doing qualifies prior to doing so. But I'll say this at the same time: if they took away the tax advantages, I wouldn't be in a hurry to pack my bags.
Okay.
That's how much I love it here. So
Perfect. Well, man, before we move on to part two, where we get into the nitty gritty with the actual hotel, where's a place people can reach out to you if they want to follow you on Instagram or work a wholesale deal with you?
just type in my name on Instagram. It's Christian X Dane, or look me up on Facebook, Christian Dane. I have a school account that I go over all the stuff I learn about wholesaling and teach it from everything from a low level to very high level stuff, and it's free. So
Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. What's the name of? If I was want to look you up on school, do I just put in Christian Dane?
yeah, so I'll put a link on
Okay.
my Facebook, um, and it's also in my Instagram bio.
Perfect. Cool, man. Well, all right, guys. This is where we would, like I said, where we will be cutting it to part two. So let's see. Let me just mark the time down. So whenever we switch over onto Spotify and YouTube and all the other channels where we post, that'll be where it cuts off. But coming back to, like I said, part two. So you get down to Puerto Rico. Instead of just wholesaling, you decide to, get into the hotel business. So was this hotel, was it already built or did you build it from the ground up?
It was about the worst shape you could possibly think. Uh,
Okay. So this was definitely like a wholesale purchase then.
this was the most wholesale of wholesale purchases. Like this was a wholesale that you'd be like, do we even want to like
You
bother?
were questioning teardown, huh?
Yeah, pretty. I mean, if the bones weren't so good, because they have to build the bones good down here to survive hurricanes.
Right.
If the bones weren't so good, I mean, there's no way I would have even glanced at it. And it helps that it's a 20-second walk from the beach. Uh,
Perfect.
one of the
So,
most beautiful beaches down here. Not even being biased, but it is a
yeah.
beautiful beach. Yeah.
So, how'd you come up with how'd the idea come about? To get the hotel. were you looking for it, or was it just brought to you? And then what, like, bring us to that.
So I was living in a building called Atlantis, which is one of the
Okay.
most beautiful buildings in San Juan. Um, it's a, Robert, owner of Investor Lift, actually moved in
Okay.
into with his crew, and I was on Facebook one day and I saw that Pedro, the guy that sold me or wholesaled me this hotel, and I saw that he posted a different hotel in Old San Juan, and I was interested about it. Um, and messaged him, reached out, and then I was like, "Hey, can you jump on a call?" And I found out he was working with Jerry Norton on Jerry Norton's hotel down here. So he was project manager for Jerry Norton's hotel in the Looking Glass. That's the name of it.
Right.
And I was like, dude, you know Jerry Norton, like that's really cool. Because that's who I learned wholesaling from online. Just looking up YouTube in my free time back in the day. And Pedro was like, "Yeah, I'm building this hotel, and but I'm really trying to do what you're doing, which is wholesaling."
Hmm.
Because he wasn't wholesaling at the time,
Okay.
and we kind of exchanged.
Lives.
Yeah, yeah, in a way, at the time, like, I introduced him to Robert and all the Investor Lift guys and the PPC lady, the Google Ads lady, and he introduced me to his crew and his lawyers and like all the people to work with down here for the incentives, and it was very much a trade of resources and information.
That's cool.
Not intentionally, but we just, Pedro's just one of those guys that you'll call him and you'll just end up talking to him for an hour. And I'm not a phone guy at all, so like
Uh-huh.
it is very rare you'll catch me like just chatting like on the phone. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
and it was very unintentional, but it worked out very well.
Right. So, what did you end up originally buying the hotel for?
300 grand.
Okay, and then
I put
about,
a hundred grand down.
okay, cool. And then about how much did you have to put into it?
Way too much.
Yeah.
um, you know, North of 500.
Okay.
That's that easy.
Yeah, yeah. So you got the owner financing on the purchase. So you only had to put the 100K down, then bring another 500K in, and then you said you basically ran out of money during the construction. So what happened, and how'd you keep the dream alive?
Yeah, so I was very, 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 very poor at one time. Um, Not too long. I mean, it was maybe 6 months ago, but it was bad. I was to the point where I was making, you know, 250 a month, wholesaling to melting ice to drink water. Like
Oh wow.
that's how bad it got. Um, it was bad. Um, and the way I bounced back, because I put everything I made, that 250, that wasn't net, that was gross. So let's say I spent 30 to 50 to 60 grand on ads that month. You deduct that minus what you pay your acquisition guy, minus what you pay your dispo guy, minus TCs, and I mean, how it is.
Hmm.
that isn't net, but it's still a sizable portion. And unlike in 2021, I wasn't in 2021. I wasn't making those type of months. I was making probably half, but they weren't like consistent either.
Right.
Like 2022 was consistent. It was back to back. Um, and I gave all of it up because I just I I didn't realize how much work it would be to do this. Um,
What was like, just to help us, some of us understand, what was like, what was the work that shocked you, that you were just like, man, this is harder than I thought it would be?
the culture. I mean, I've done six-figure plus rehab budget renovations in the states that I never even saw in different states, like in Charleston, South Carolina, that just turned out beautiful. That I made, well over six figures on, and I was like, yeah, if I'm here, I can do whatever, and it's turning a 5 unit into a 7 unit. But here it's like it's the jungle. You got like everyone is out to get you. Like, yeah, there's a ton of opportunities, but first of all, like, good luck getting anyone to lend you money down here on a project. Like, residential is different. If you're trying to buy a house and you got a family, like, that's completely
Uh-huh.
different. If you're trying to build and if you're trying to do what I did, like, good luck getting a loan
Okay, so
unless you had
you
prior experience, or if it's a DSCR loan, or it's a ton to put down. Um, good luck. But yeah, I went through like five different construction crews. Um, Everyone, their mother's trying to rip you off in every other way if you're a gringo, or
in what way, just would they try to get a down payment and then not show up, or what, or
yeah, like contract, they just work different. They'll tell you one thing and then do another. The permitting is all out of whack. It's crazy because like I've never pulled a permit for any of my projects in the states, and I never got caught. Because and of course, like down here is the first time I got caught, and I'm like, really? And like it's so that I had to halt. So I started building like right after I bought it in February 2023. Shortly after, got a stop work order from the city. Had to wait 8 months, and you know, I thought I was gonna have to give it back to the guy.
oh
That
wow.
So I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
And so you got stopped for 8 months?
Yeah,
Wow. So, and what was, I mean, I'm assuming that you were, going in there like, weekly trying to get it going. Like, what were they saying was the holdup?
they were giving me all types of different excuses. Like at one point, I thought I was gonna have to raise the roof and completely move the walls because it was too close to the neighbor, and like the frontage was too close to the road. It just all this like
Setbacks and stuff they were claiming.
just just all this BS that just ended up not being true, and just ended up. Um, it's a lot of people down here that just don't want to move things along or push things, and you
Okay.
really just have to be on them. Like, I mean, you have to be on people in general, but like down here, you have to be on them.
Right. No, Will and I definitely have dealt in the previously, different counties and stuff they're a little slower to do permits in versus other ones. But what did you just finally wear them out, or what made it where you finally were able to get the clear to go ahead? Like, what cleared up all the BS and
I
missed?
just I just annoyed them all day, every day.
Okay. So you really were going up there almost every day for 8 months till they got the.
Not almost. It got to the point at the 8 month mark. It was about a month where everyone that had any sort of influence on me getting my permit, I was bothering them from the minute they woke up to the minute like I did not. And I had my VA in the Philippines do the same.
Okay.
And
So basically, they were going to have to talk to you.
I was just so annoying that the cost of not doing what I needed them to do was less than the annoyance I was causing.
Man, I love just kicking through the door when people throw up a roadblock. I love hearing a story of people just busting through and not accepting that no for an answer. So, I mean, so now you got through that. You back permitted again. Now you're back running. Is this where you start really burning through the money? Then that 8 months is like now that you're permitted, or were you already burnt through some before you got stopped?
Well, there's holding costs that
Right.
I was paying the note holder, previous owner, at the time, 12% interest only, and
Damn. Yeah.
and after a year in our agreement, and this is one thing that I'm really glad I did, and I was adamant about it at the closing table. He tried to get a balloon payment on the property, and I was like, dude, I'm putting 30% down. I've never done a project in Puerto Rico. I'm not signing a balloon for a year or even 2 years. I was like, I'll walk away right now. I was like, I have 100 grand cash right here. I have 30%,
Hmm.
but I'm not signing a balloon because I have no idea how it works down here. And I'm not going to let you foreclose on me if I can't make that balloon happen.
Right.
I was like, what I'll do is I'll let you raise the interest to 15, which it did. So I was paying, it bumped up from 12 to 15 interest only. Um, and I'm really glad I did that and didn't cave because he really tried to pressure me to
Yeah,
sign.
yeah. No, and actually, man, that's actually a very interesting element because 12% sounds crazy to the average person who just buys a regular home to live in. But they don't realize some of these loans us real estate investors do. But I understand, like I said, the leverage involved. So, like I said, being able to get 12% interest only and then willing to go up to 15%. So, was it basically at that it was going to just stay at 15% interest only until you decided to pay him the balloon off, which
Exactly.
obviously, which obviously 15% interest only is a heavy incentive to try to go get a different loan. So I mean, it's not like you wanted to keep his loan forever because
Exactly. And that's why he was, yeah, exactly. That's why, and he was bugging me, like, bugging me to pay it off. And, I did, but like,
bro, if you ever want to borrow money from me at 15%,
exactly.
don't even got to ever pay me off. Just keep paying that interest.
And I was like, and because he would text me, like, bi-week or not bi-weekly, bi-monthly, and he'd be like, "Hey, what's going on with the refund?" I'm like, dude, I haven't even opened yet, like, and I'm paying you 15%. Like, give me a break, guy. Like,
Right.
so yeah, having him off my back was a relief. But dude, the foreclosure process in Puerto Rico is a nightmare. It would have taken him well over a year to for
Right.
and I don't even know that he could have, because there was no balloon. So it would have, but yeah, to your point, I didn't want to keep paying the 15%.
Right. Well, no, and that's why I thought that actually that's a great win-win negotiation in my opinion, because again, you don't have the day that you just have to pay or else you lose it. Like you just keep making a payment. But B, it is a high enough rate to where, again, very few things in life pay you that much. I mean, that's higher than S&P average. So, I mean, 15% is a very great annual return. If I could guarantee every single dollar I had would get 15%, I wouldn't take a risk on anything. I would just do that. Like I take the risk now because I need to make, 30 and 40% on some things to compensate for the 10%, 20% loss I took on something else. So,
Exactly. And that's why I was confused why he's
yeah, so
like,
if I had honestly, dude, if I had a guaranteed 10% on everything, like no risk, I would just do that.
yeah,
Um,
why not?
yeah. So no, but I love that kind of creative financing. So got so 8 months in is really when you were able to get going on it. From that point, how many months did it take you to finish the build? And then from there, I was gonna ask you, when did you pay him off?
So let's see, I bought it in 2023, took me 8 months. So 2024, we're in 2025. I've been open for about 10 months. So I was able to finish after the 8 months, probably 7 months after,
Okay.
8 months after. And then I officially opened in September of 2024.
Okay.
So I've been open for almost a year now. Uh,
Awesome. And then when did I'm assuming you did pay him off, or are you still paying the interest?
no, I paid him off. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Did you end up get a DSCR loan, or what kind of how were you how?
No, I sold one of my multifamilies in Frederick and paid him
Okay.
off.
Oh, cool. So now you just have that place for cash then.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. And you said that even at this point now that you have a finished hotel product, would it still be hard to get debt on your hotel?
Yeah, I've been trying to get a refi on it, a cash out refi, and it's difficult. It's they do not make it easy down here. I don't know what it is. It's very very strange. They want to see you open for like 3 years,
Okay.
and they're very reluctant on lending, especially to people that have only done like one project. If I had done, you know, because this investor, he was telling me, yeah, it's easy to, of course. But it was easy to refi for him because he's been doing this since Hurricane Maria when he flew down here and he was buying things that were pennies on the dollar, you know.
Right.
And yeah, it's easy for him. I mean, the whole reason he sold it to me because he is an investor, was because this project was too small for him because he does like 30, 50, 100 units in San Juan.
Okay.
And this was kind of a small project for him. So he was telling me, yeah, it's easy to refi. And he gave me some of his connections, but there was always a roadblock. But yeah, I'm working on getting a cash out refi now to um, pay some of the private loans off that aren't attached to the hotel. But also, I'm in the process of building a restaurant in the back um, that I'll be opening hopefully soon. And then there's another project behind me that I'm trying to buy.
Okay.
It's a 2 acre parcel of land that I could put about 20 glamping units on. And it has like 3 structures that I could do something very similar to what I did to this hotel.
Wow. Okay. So what did you learn about yourself in the process, and what changed in the way you now handle pressure in business now?
Um, I'd say what I learned is trust absolutely no one.
Yeah. Oh man, it's that dirty down there.
Not even down here. Um, I mean, it opened my eyes more down here, but just friends become enemies, you know?
Really? Okay.
I mean, just, I mean, and that's not even a Puerto Rican thing. That's, there's some people, um, just, I mean, they say it in the Bible. It's cursed is the one that puts his trust in any man. We're taught in the Bible not even to trust our own thoughts. How can you trust another man?
Yeah. No, that's definitely interesting. So so like, how do you use that when in your dealings? You just make sure you get everything in writing or confirm it, or how do you apply that?
I let everyone know up front I don't trust them, even if I don't care if they're a friend of a friend, family. I don't trust you. I don't, and it's nothing personal.
Mhm.
It's human nature, and um, you know, friends turn into enemies. I mean, have you ever been betrayed by an enemy? You can. It's impossible.
That's actually that is interesting. Yeah. No. Well, cool. So now that you live and live in and manage the hotel, which is an incredible turnaround. What's life like running the business from the inside the business?
Um, so prior to running and building and where I'm at now, my advice would have been to find the best people. But even the best people, things can change, and we all go through things in life. And I think when we look at employees or partners or whatever it may be, and look at them one day, and we have this like standard for them. But then, I mean, you and I mean, when we think about it, I mean, think of like when you're at your lowest point, you're not at your highest performing like, and but we expect our employees and everyone else to be at that standard no matter what, and it's like that's just not, even if they're great, it's just not realistic. So it's really realizing like someone can be great, but that doesn't mean they're always going to be great. So you need to be ready to pivot if and when that greatness expires.
No, I think that is great advice. As a restaurant owner, as managers, I definitely understand that. You know, because yeah, I've definitely had some people that when they spend a lot of time and a lot of effort over the years, and then something changes, you don't want to let them go right away, but sometimes you need to because they're ready to go on kind of a different direction, but they might not be ready to make the actual move for themselves yet. I mean, you had to get moved out of a lot of places from the beginning of our conversation. It sounded like, including your father moving you out. Of the last job. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly, and
yeah.
it's
But man, look at you now though, because if you wouldn't have gotten shoved out the door at some of those places, I mean, like you wouldn't be sitting in the hotel you're sitting in right now that you own. That's all yours.
exactly, and I'd also say one thing I learned is do everything yourself, and you're not above anything, no matter the task, no matter you know, like right now, like I used to be wholesaling and I wouldn't even know when a deal would close, and I would know because a 20 grand wire came in, and I'm like, what state did we close the deal in? And now I'm on batch downloading auction lists that I just closed on one Monday. Uh, from batch dialer, and now I'm, back on the dialer, like, just making cold calls. So it's a completely different, like, you just have to realize no matter where you get or how high you get up, like, you're not above any task. Um, because not only will it humble you, but you won't procrastinate because you'll just get it done.
Right. No, no, for sure. So, what do your operations look like now? How do you handle the bookings, the maintenance, and the guests while still wholesaling?
So yeah, I just do it myself. Um, just learned it. Had a really tough learning curve thrown at me. Um,
Because just to check, this hotel was your first bit of short term rentals. Correct? You didn't dabble in Airbnb or anything like that prior.
no, and I fired my management company because I caught them stealing from me, and they actually locked me out of all the systems and messaged about 35 different guests saying that the property was under construction. It was under a lawsuit. It was
Oh my god!
all this different stuff, just slandering me, saying I'm a racist, just logged into my socials, like just saying all this different stuff about me. Um, it really put a dent in, everything. Um, and I lost about 35 grand worth of bookings.
Oh wow!
And that was just like what I tracked in bookings I lost. But you got to remember, like, all the time that I had to recoup not wholesaling, learning a completely different skill, which is property management and all that comes with it. But at the same time, I'm trying to get back my accounts for my properties. And if, anyone that knows anything about short-term rentals and these, booking.com, Expedia, Airbnb, it's not easy,
Right?
you
Yeah, yeah.
know.
Very very hard to get a hold of somebody.
I mean, I was on the phone with them 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 weeks, just trying to get my accounts back. So that 35 grand, if you had to put a number on it, you know, I'd say six figures that I lost in potential, like, just the time spent learning. I was just on defense the entire time, trying to not get my accounts hacked because they were after me that hard,
Right.
because I fired them, and
Man, were you? Did you end up? Were you like down there? Were you able to? Did you ever sue them or anything afterwards, or you just move on?
uh, I haven't yet, but I have a mountain of evidence, and it's actually not even a local company. It's a company that I met through someone I know. So it's yeah, it's a very complicated situation, but yeah, they'll something will happen.
Okay, yeah, can't comment on it right now since it's ongoing.
Yeah.
No, I understand. Like you said, if it's not settled yet, yeah, you can't really say a whole lot on it. But what's been the most rewarding part of this journey so far? From almost burning out, almost ready to give the keys up and give it back to building the place.
uh, Really just the grit that you obtain, um, there, I mean, I feel like I can do anything now, and like looking at Mark, like when I first started, it looked like I was looking up at Mount Everest, and now like I'm kind of on his level, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like there's really nothing that I feel like I couldn't take down. At
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could have paid cash for a Lamborghini, but instead you bought a hotel.
this.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
So,
that's
and
true.
I mean, and personally, I think that's a much better purchase. I don't, I never really get. I think cars are cool and all, but I also don't really, I don't overthink them when people have them because you never know if someone, paid cash and has enough money in their bank to buy 10 more, or if they just were paying that, $2,000 a month. So, there's,
I had this badass Jeep that I totaled, and now I drive, a '98 Chevy Suburban. And it's like
uh-huh.
I pay cash for. I don't care.
Hey, the '98 Chevy Suburban's a great model. So I love those. We had a '97 green one when I was a kid. So yeah, no,
Nice.
yeah, great ride, super comfortable. What advice do you have for someone who's ready to quit, or someone who's chasing something really big, but it feels like they're about to run out of gas?
Um, Adderall. No, I'm just kidding. Pray about it. Really look at what you're good at, what you want to do. Um, find someone that's doing what you want to do. For me, it was Mark, and you don't have to turn into that person. Like I said, I was able to separate the personal aspects of what he did in his life, and really just absorb everything that I could, and really have a sense of urgency with everything you do. And if you do want to really do something, you need to look at your competition and what they're doing, and uh, you need to do 10 times what they're doing.
Okay, no, I like that. So make sure you 10x the competition's efforts.
Whatever it takes. I don't care if you have to sleep 4 hours a night. I don't
Okay,
care if you have to take 80 milligrams of Adderall.
and that'll
Like
have you going.
you really just need. And I'm not advocating for drug use or
Right. Only if you're prescribed by a doctor.
exactly, but
Yeah.
you need to do what you have to do, regardless of. I mean, you just have to do it.
I agree. Man, no, this is fun. I've definitely got a lot of insight about some of the difficulties with Puerto Rico, as well as like some of the benefits. If someone wanted to stay at your hotel, where would they go? How would they book that?
Um, Airbnb, just look up Garden of Eden Hotel on Google. That's the name of it. Or in
Okay.
Sarah. Yeah.
Garden of Eden Hotel. So just Google that. You'll be able to find it on Airbnb. It sounds easy enough. And then again, since we'll be wrapping up this as a part two, whenever we post it to the other platforms, where would people reach out to you on your social and to be a part of your school program?
Yeah. So Christian X Dane um, on Instagram, and then I have the school link in my bio, and where I teach, the 40% tax advantage of Puerto Rico. So I didn't even mention that. That's the whole reason I bought the hotel, was because they give me 40% of the purchase price, the renovation, um, uh, operating expenses, marketing. They actually give it to me back, not even as a tax credit like most people think, but as essentially a check. Uh,
Wow. Okay. So let me just talk this out before we wrap up math wise. So you put 100 down, spent 500 on renovations. But like with the 300 it costs, you basically all in for 800,000. So you got a check for 40% of that just back upon completion.
At this point, it's actually over a million. But it's 2 years after first year of, or 2 years after first day of operation. So first day of operation was roughly 10 months ago. So I have a year and 2 months until I get my first draw of the 40% that they'll give me of total spent, which in total it'll be 400,000 that I'll get.
Dude, man, we that was probably one of the big things we need to focus on. Man, that is awesome. So, uh, okay, so you
I
said
mean,
it's
that's the whole reason. I mean, there's no way I would have done
well,
this.
and you honestly you had me a little bit concerned because I was like, man, if you can't cash out refi, like where's they? Like this sounds like a very slow cash flow play. So okay, so the way it works after you get your like certificate of occupancy, open for business, 2 years later, do you get the full 400K, or you said something about a draw?
So they give it to you in draws. So they'll give me um, uh, every 3 months. They'll give me 33% of the 400K, and it's actually not 400K. It is a tax credit, but these tax credits are assignable. So on the open market, I'm able to sell these tax credits for 90 cents on the dollar. So essentially, and I did spend over a million, but for ease of
Let's call
example,
it a million, 400,000. So you'd get 360.
90% times 400,000. That's how much I'll get in
Okay, 360,000.
360,000 divided
Yeah.
by uh,
Three.
three. So every 3 months, I'll get that tax free.
Man, 120 grand, 120 grand. Okay, so this is really what makes Puerto Rico so good. I mean, it's not a quick play by any means. I mean, because I mean, you got there, you locked it up, you got held underwater for 8 months, and then you got busted out of that. So I mean, it almost. I mean, I think by math, it took you almost 18 months from start to get open ish, right? And did I map that out about right?
Yeah. And I'd say,
Give or take a month. Yeah.
and my goal is in the next 3 years to do over 10 of what I did.
Okay.
Because it's like anything else, right? Like your very first wholesale deal. I mean, I remember mine like it was yesterday, and the events that led up to that, and all that you had to put in to learn to work, how nervous you were, and everyone forgets about that. It's like, but like people always ask me because they see how hard it was and how much shit I went through and how in the mud I was. And they're like, why would you ever do one again? And I was like, why wouldn't I? I have all of the knowledge, all of the connections, everything I did. Now this would have taken.
Right. Well, I was going to ask you, like, now do you have like know what construction company to call that can handle?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
now I could do,
So
like
you
the
would
next.
have probably. I mean, you probably dealt. I mean, just from what you sound like, the pure hell you had to go through. You probably had like 6 months of problems that wouldn't even have existed if you had the knowledge and connections that you have at the very end of the project.
Absolutely. At least.
Okay.
I
No,
mean,
that's
and
that's
now I'm, looking at a deal that's going to be 20 tiny homes and three large structures. That's. I mean, it just trumps this deal
right.
tenfold, and that's going to be way easier than this was. I mean, that'll be a piece of cake because I just know how it works. I know the players. I know the game. I know how the game works.
Right. Well, and now even just with like permitting, you know straight up on like who to walk in and then whose office to walk straight to, because like I know just from our dealings, doing our county builds, here in the states, in our county here in Florida, that you going and having a good rapport with the permitting office is like key. Like if you want to get in, get out, and get your permit stamped. I mean, you know that you want people to like you. And they're like you want to be well liked, and you want people to kind of like like I said, build those connections because like my experience, there's some people that want to see people succeed, and there's some people that hate seeing people walk in there knowing that they're going to get out there and make money with that permit, and it's crazy to me because your success has no effect on my success. Like, I mean, I could, if someone's signing off and you go make $1 million, it's not like it takes away anything from here. But you definitely see a lot of people slowing things down just because they don't like seeing other people's success. At least that's been my view whenever it comes to any kind of licensing.
That what you just said, I would say was my actual biggest turning point in actually making money in real estate. Not even making like forget Mark. In my mind as an agent, I wasn't closing deals because that guy, his dad owned the brokerage, so he was closing deals because he had that advantage. She was closing deals because she was hot and the investors wanted to work with her. It was just always someone else was the reason that I wasn't closing deals.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute I was like, no, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
It's all me. No one else. It's me. That's really when, and it changed like that. When I gave no other excuse and it was only me that was the issue and me that was the problem, that's really what the game changer was for me in real estate.
Yeah. No, dude, I love that. I mean, and I think that's something that I'm not going to say every, but some people, I mean, do get a little bit of luck. There are lottery winners out there, but most of the successful
I'll
people,
go broke, right? Like what percent go broke?
exactly. But most of the successful people I know that reach that ultimate level of success, where success is there to stay in their life, they've all have had some kind of moment where they did have to like go look completely inward and be like, you know what, this is all my fault. Like everything that's not going right in my life right now is on me. It's not necessarily because you intentionally made bad choices. It might just been like something lackadaisical, but we're responsible for everything that happens, to our lives in a degree from, if we decide to leave at this time versus 5 minutes later, all those things change. And so I feel like that everyone had to kind of like, everyone has to look at it, inwardly and make the change. I know for me, I went through a big rough point in my life where I just knew like, okay, now I have to get 1% better every day, and so that's when, I got real big on my health and fitness because I used to be extremely overweight. And then I, got locked into my businesses, working on one business at a time. And and like I said, eventually it all worked. But it wasn't until I, looked at myself and knew that, like, hey, no one's gonna come help me. I gotta do this. And and everybody I meet, like that's why I think it's so cool. Like, say, getting to talk to you and hearing you go down and do those, all those challenges, and things you dealt with, and people doing you wrong, and you just pushing through, because like I said, you're the one who gets to win in the very end. And I mean, dude, being able to after 2 years being able to recover 40% of what you had into it as like a bonus, and then still being able to like because it sounds like after you kind of get through this next 3 years of your life, I think you'll be able to like get loans pretty easily down in Puerto Rico from what you told me. Like it's kind of a struggle on the front end because you got to build your rapport. But 3 years from now, you'll have the hotel you're in right now, the glam site across the street. I'm already seeing another one. I mean, like I don't see you slowing. So I mean, if you're doing all that, I mean, it's like 5 years from now, you're hotelier, ready to get loans. This is what you do, and you've been in Puerto Rico. Then you got that established thing. I mean, you think it will kind of lax up a little bit for you, like in that 5-6 year period?
Absolutely. Now I'm going full steam. Like I said, in the next 3 years, I want to build over 10 hotels that are at least twice as big as this one. And, you know, because why not? Why wouldn't I?
You,
Every
do you plan on doing it as a solopreneur, or do you plan on bringing in partners? I know I know you mentioned, trust being a thing, but I mean, can you figure out that trust in the right kind of business setup?
Honestly, no. It's just gonna be me.
Okay.
I because I think so many people have the issue of they want a partner. They feel like they have to have a partner. They feel like their partner's like their safety net. And your partner's not going to save you. No one is going to save you. No one care at the end of the day. I mean, and this might sound brash, but like no one cares about you. No one if I died tomorrow, like people would talk about it for a couple months, but after a year, like you got to really think about when is the last time your name will be said and realize it probably maybe a year or two after you die. Like you got to remember, no one is coming to save you, and no matter how much you think your partner cares about you, he really probably doesn't at the end of the day that much. And it really it ends up being a finger pointing match of oh, because if you think about it this way, how many times have you been in a partnership and you've been reluctant or procrastinated because you feel like the other person isn't pulling their weight?
Okay. Yeah. I've seen that. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Like, and it deters you from getting what you need to get done because you are not doing what you need to do out of spite because you feel like they're not pulling their weight.
Yeah.
More than them.
No, I see that. I got really blessed. My partner Will, he wasn't able to be on today, but honestly, I sometimes feel like because he has the more experience on building new construction than I have, so I honestly feel like sometimes he's pulling me along, and so
He
it's
might feel like that about
yeah,
you.
what you just said. He might be like when he listens to this, he's like, yeah, I am definitely dragging Sam. Uh, but I think though I think I don't know, one of my ideas when it comes to partnerships is I don't ever think people should overcommit too early. I think when you try to if you want to build a good one, partner on a deal, and if
Yeah.
that works, do another deal. And if it keeps
Take it
working.
very slow, like very. Don't get married to anybody. Just
Yeah,
date.
exactly. You don't have to like just commit everything you do going to be with this person forever. A lot of times like my partnerships have worked well have been in kind of in categories or like I said on specific properties. One of my really good Airbnb partnerships, I had a friend who got kind of stuck in that transitionary market, at post COVID where whenever the rates shot back up and all of a sudden condos and stuff weren't selling as easily, he did a big renovation project and was trying to get his equity out. And I just sold something. I told him a while back, like, hey man, if you want me to be in on that with you, you just got to let me in at your costs, and I'll cash you out, that share of the equity. Well, after he couldn't sell it for a while, he decided to do that because he did want to do a short term rental, but he is not a people person at all. Doesn't want to talk to people or deal with people. Me, I'm the restaurant guy, so I'm Mr. Service Industry, used to having to be smiling and talking happily, even though when people are making me angry. And
Yeah.
and so we basically just did the deal where like, okay, look, I'll take over the Airbnb and I'll handle all the guests, all the messaging, and I'll line up the housekeepers. Anything physically has to be done in the place, you got to go do it because he lives closer to it. Uh, and we had the perfect partnership that way because it's like I'm on call to my phone all the time. I told my guests they after 9 p.m. I'm not going to be able to reach again until 9 the next day. But for basically 12 hours a day, I check my phone every 15-20 minutes to make sure I'm on it. But again, I never have to go there if there's a problem. So and then he at the same time got the win that he never has to talk to a guest. And so like I said, it works in that way. But no, I mean I'm with you that people shouldn't just partner for will, just just the partner, and make sure like that like I said in my case, I'm handling one lane, he's handling the other. With Will and me, like I said, he has tons of business experience. Mine is more in rental management, or he has done some building experience. Mine's more in just general business and rental management. So it's kind of as we do more in the build to rent side. I think some of my talents will be coming out more on the management of the rentals versus the finding of them. But no, I mean, I definitely, I definitely see your point, and know that the good thing about not necessarily having a partner is that you get to make your decisions quickly and on your own without having to come to an agreement, because I mean there's definitely is sometimes in that where that is tougher in partnerships.
And when things do go wrong, not if you have no one to blame but yourself, which goes back
Exactly.
to, how I really developed the mindset. I think is completely, at the end of the day, necessary in order to succeed. Is it's my fault. And with a partnership, these people that are addicted to having a partner, sometimes don't feel that because they're just blaming their partner all day for everything. So, you know,
Right. No, no, definitely understandable. But man, this was definitely some good information. So I mean, I definitely see the benefits of Puerto Rico. The setback is very hard to get financing as a brand new person down there. But I mean, that can be some difficulty in a lot of areas of real estate, because I know qualifying for new construction loans when you don't have previous construction experience, or new hard money fix to flip loans that experience. So I mean, kind of my takeaway is that you don't expect to get financing without having a very strong record of experience. They want you to be local down there, so they want you to have localized experience, and and you had to have been in multiple projects, and after that you can get through the financial barrier. But otherwise, you pretty much need to be planning to come in there with cash or private lending.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, cool, man.
Or a partner that knows what they're doing and has the money and you know how to do the construction or the connections. You just don't go into it blind and don't don't do what I did. Don't buy it off more than you can chew.
Right. Well, now, man. Well, hey, I was going to ask you to be my partner, but
I'm not opposed to it, man. I'm just saying I don't trust you.
yeah, yeah. Hey, look, and I understand that. Actually, I prefer going into it that way, because one of the things I always say makes a good partnership is you should write down all the things together that could go wrong and you could disagree on. And once you write all that out, I promise you, those aren't going to be the reasons you break up. Uh, and if they are, you have it written out the exact step by step of dissolution. But
Exactly. If
but with anything, it's any kind of relationship, whether it's a partnership or a marriage, one of the biggest questions I think people got to get firmly on the same page on is what you're going to do with the money. How are you going to take the money in? How are you going to when and how are you going to disperse the money? What you're going to save as reserves, and just be really you got. I mean, that is the topic that you got to talk about clearly, and that because that's where people fuck each other. That's where they go wrong with it. I mean, that's where people try to screw each other over. It always usually is on the finances, and that's where I think people need to be really clear on, hey, are we going to be taking money every year, or we're letting this business ride, and what that plan is. We either way, whatever it is.
and people need to be a lot more comfortable being uncomfortable with having those conversations because
Right.
it's not easy to talk to people about it. And I remember my first cold call, I literally hung up on a voicemail because my voice was like shaking. And now I literally am on the dialer making cold calls while I'm doing other stuff, and I'm like, oh wait, did I forget? Did that person just answer? Like,
You're right.
it's like another, like, it's like it's nothing, and it's the same learning curve, and it's the same fear that you have to overcome in talking about finances with your partners. And I think is the biggest thing. And if you're able to do that, then yeah, I think a partnership could work.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's like I said, that's one of the most important things I feel like is just got to be on that same page there and make sure you and your partner have the same similar appetite for risk. So I usually, I'm pretty easy to work with because usually when I invest in something, I want the long term growth and I want to eventually be able to borrow off of it. So I usually don't want anything back quick. It's usually like I'm in it thinking I usually invest in 5 and 10 year terms. Like I don't even really think outside of something shorter usually.
I mean, when has short-term gratification
Yeah,
ever been, you know?
all my big checks that I've never been an extraordinary wholesaler, so all my big checks I've gotten in real estate have usually been 20 and 24 month periods, or more longer, but it's been
Well, there's a cost to everything, you know. I mean,
right.
the
So,
short-term wholesale deals. I mean, yeah, you can get them quick, you can get them fast, but at what cost? You have to call 50 people that cuss you out saying, "Take me off your effing list. Your mom should have had an abortion." Just like I hope you die in a fire. Like the things I've heard, and I don't care. I'm so numb to it at this point, but there is a cost to everything. So like, you know, if you're willing to eat that cost, whatever it may be, then yeah, but like, there's going to be a cost.
right. No, dude, your mom should have had an abortion. I'm still laughing at that one. Yeah, no, because you're not and dude, that is exactly how I know that you're a real wholesaler because I haven't said anything that cold to someone who's blown up my phone trying to buy my property yet, but I've definitely thought it, like so that is funny because yeah, I mean, not anybody who's listening to this who's had a wholesalers call them about buying their house, probably feels the same way, but at the same time, if you were interested in wholesaling, you just can't take that kind of stuff personal, and they weren't a seller, so you just move on and call the next guy anyway.
You got to laugh at it and you got to
Yeah,
roll.
actually, yes, it's kind of like the quicker they can kind of give you that, fu, the quicker you can hang up, move on to the next one. So, you know,
Honestly, I get more pissed off at the people that drag me along and then it doesn't end up being a deal. And I'm like, it's a skill getting off the phone with those people because you're like, I know this isn't a deal. And I get more pissed off at that than the people that cuss me out.
right? No, dude, that's funny. Well, man, before we wrap up, again, I said if you want to stay at your hotel, all they need to do is Google Garden of Eden and be able to book it on Airbnb. And then if someone wants to connect with you to either wholesale or just follow you on Instagram or Facebook, you said where would they go?
Christian X Dane on Instagram and then just Christian Dane on Facebook. If you send me a DM on Instagram, I'll probably answer. On Facebook, I have my VA uh, messaging a ton of people a day, so I won't even see you if you hit me up on Facebook. But Instagram, yeah.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, dude, I appreciate you spending the time with me, sharing your story. I'm definitely interested. I think I'm gonna give Bryce a shout and I'll see about joining him on the trip. I think they said he's coming down in December or something like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, whenever it gets cold, I'm gonna be trying to come on down to Puerto Rico to get warm and stay a couple nights down at the hotel and have you show me where all these needle haystacks are.
exactly, man. Yeah, let them know and push them to book soon because I mean, I have all of July booked and pretty much all August and half of September. So it's getting there. So, but
Nice.
yeah, I appreciate you having me on and yeah, I got to piss like a racehorse.
All
So
right, man. Well, hey, you have a great rest of your evening, and we'll catch up soon. Have your buddy Pedro give me a call. I'd love to talk to him, about some wholesaling hotels as well.
absolutely will do, man. I appreciate you having me
All right,
on.
man. You have a good time. I'll talk to you soon.
Likewise, take care.